Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I know I'm left-handed, so I would be backwards, so I can't even do anything appropriately, and I don't want to mess up his musical instrument here, but I'm so looking forward to this really great poetry musical performance for our upcoming feature. I've seen him many a time, but I am always thrilled every time he comes up on the stage, so please, everyone, give that screaming applause that he needs for this. Please give it up for our feature tonight, Cleary!
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you! Thank you!
Thank you, Janet, for inviting me. I'd like to begin with a song. As poetry is basically song in my approach to it. This is a little tune. Ain't she sweet? See her coming down the street. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look her over once or twice. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she nice? Just cast an eye in her direction. Oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? I repeat, don't you think that's kind of neat? Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Alright, I want to begin with an old poem. This is my most famous poem. It's called The Balloon Man. I know the balloon man lives downstairs. This is a house built on balloons. Red, yellow, blue and green balloons. It's leaping on the air of so much helium. I saw him at the street corner, raining, holding them, for fear they'd take flight. I thought he would take flight, a real cloudy rainbow over him. Someone bought a balloon, and for an instant in the congregation, it was as if childhood had escaped and become one among us. Now I know the balloon man lives downstairs. The house has been supported on balloons, like the house built in the clouds of an eastern fairy tale. I step downstairs as if I were floating, under each foot a balloon, and go down into the mingled lights of the nighttime city. Again I see him at the street corner. I know he lives downstairs. And I say, what a cool way to make a living. Okay, I'm going to read, this was a poet we all knew back in the old days. His name was J.J. Jameson. And this is the ballad of J.J. Jameson. We were all outlaws of a sort, and so he found a home with us where he could be himself and read the doggone poem. His Boston accent marked him out. The way he stood, his stance, his robust rolling Yankee wit, his tough take on romance, his deadpan humor most of all, masking a tenderness for those small things that occupied his private universe, and which he carefully crafted in his sonorous, ribald poems about the Lady Rutherford and was it her legumes? The man, now let me say it here, was no one other than the bustling character we knew as J.J. Jameson, who, for what now seems a brief time, once held the floor with us when we with him would read our works, mute and inglorious. From one wild reading to the next, we'd go about at will, vying with one another and using our verbal skills to plug the issues of the day as they came whizzing by, accepting whatever applause was due when hitting a bullseye. The world went onward as before. We barely caused a blip to ruffle up its dry repose, or for an instant tip its interest to us. All the while we rattled on and on, reading our stuff, and as we did, having a bit of fun. We read in hangouts of all kinds, taverns and coffee bars, invisible almost in plain sight for years and years and years. We read at summer festivals, went up and down the scale from one packed reading to the next, leaving a paper trail. We never knew in all that time that along with us rode a genuine, real-life fugitive, a man who had shed blood and who from prison had escaped 20-odd years ago, finding his way from Boston, Mass, to good old Chicago. We only knew, no matter what, that he was one of us, a man imperfect, if you like, but warm and generous, a man engaged in working out those things he grappled with, and in the meantime holding forth with dignity and wit. A man, I'll put it to you straight, we've grown to know and love, in whose found company we found a sparkling treasure trove. Whatever he'd done those years ago, although a brutal crime, was somewhat expiated by the blurring span of time, and by the fact the man we knew, the man who shared our woes, our periodic ups and downs, our various highs and lows, was not that man, but was someone we might have called a friend, and so stood by, right or wrong, up to the bitter end. As if in form of a salute to his poetic peers, he said as the cops took him in, "I've had a good 20 years." Or as he always used to say, it was his special touch when bringing our reading to a close. Chanquia, thank you very much. Well, This is a poem remembering Dave's Remember the Crosses. Well, this is called A Lovely Day in the Graveyard. The flowers are blooming in the public parks and blooming here for all that people say about such places, with their snide remarks about the dead and how they've had their day. Here all such tart suggestions are belied by what seems now a radiant atmosphere of fertile nature, not to be denied. The dead, it seems, have their own share of cheer. Not long ago, perhaps, they strode about, not too unlike what I am doing now, chipper and hale, rejoicing to be out, the sun attendant on an upturned brow, that they are now transferred to this still state of putrefaction on their mounds of earth seems less perhaps a thing to celebrate and more like something to be cause of dirt. Yet here somehow I'm curiously upbeat about the whole shebang of life and death, as if it after all were something sweet and was not something to take issue with. Death, after all, is just a fact of life. We can't avoid it even if we try. No matter what we say, for all our grief, sooner or later, all of us have to die. So without more ado, let me say this. Trusting in heaven and its holy word, about the endless realms of joy and bliss, though this to many may sound plain absurd. What if death's not the ending after all? What if this little death is but a sleep from which we come awake to the eternal and have no further cause to mourn or weep? What if the whole extravagance is true? What if the faithful dead will rise again and prance about the heavens ever new, in endless rapture, free from toil and pain? What if God's mercy truly knows no end, in spite of all the furious talk of hell? What if at last he'll greet us like a friend, and after all is done, all will be well? All will be well. The solace of those words from Julian of Norwich holds us still, ascending like a host of brilliant chords to soothe the spirit, pacify the will, and put us in a peaceful frame of mind. The dead may very well keep holiday for all we know it. Here and there we find flowers among the graves this month of May. Oh. Well, that's a very heavy poem. Anyway, let me read a few love poems. Okay? This is called Women. Women come at you north, south, east, and west, confusing you right from the very start. You do not have to be supremely smart to see a disadvantage here, at least. Besides their beauty, shapely thigh or breast, or what seems more related to the heart, their virtuous character. Lost without a chart, you're doomed to flounder at the simplest test. What can you do but try to hold your ground, putting your best foot forward, hold on fast, while you affect an air of nonchalance. Pray that your shaking timbers may be sound as you stand stalwart there before the blast. Such are the perils, the pitfalls of romance. And this is another recent poem. This is about trying to capture something in a poem called beauty. Beauty, whatever net we cast to try to snare it, hold it fast, escapes our lofty tete-a-tete to live and thrive another day. Astonish us again afresh, no longer held by the soft mesh we cast about it in our prime of purple prose or paint or rhyme. Now, how inadequate, how bare seems all our efforts in compare with what we might have tried to do. Beauty remains still, ever new, determinedly beyond our grasp. So even now we have to gasp when it surprises us again with something splendid, close to pain. All right, this is a poem about Ireland. It's called In Ireland. Travelling in Ireland, Limerick, Galway, Cork, I savour its light airs, its breezy talk, and I again become inebriate of its soft charms, its free and easy state, its sense of being somehow quite cut loose from normal bonds, things narrow or abstruse. As round about as up and down I go, on every side my eyes take in the show of sprouting life, the spontaneity that just erupts is such a sight to see. The natural parade of every day, of people everywhere at work or play. And to go into a pub or a restaurant or a shop, perhaps, to get something I want. A simple object I might wish to buy, a souvenir, or just a book that I might have been looking for, a precious find, a worthy tome to elevate the mind, is often an experience quite unique. Especially if I get a chance to speak with someone there, to spend an hour or two as if we both had nothing else to do, but rattle on and on about this and that, on any subject matter off the bat. And that, of course, in Ireland is not all, where everything's important, big and small. You get the sense that here somehow you fit. With every step, become aware of it, into a scheme of things that's not too grand. and feel the earth around you as you stand. All right. How am I doing for time?
Well, if you wanted to go on and on, you could probably do that for a while. Because we like you, and they'll let us hear for probably upwards of 20 minutes, so you got all the time you want.
Yeah. Well, here I'm going to do some of my translations from the great Italian poet Petrarch. Now, this is Canzoni 1. You know, Petrarch fell in love with this beautiful woman, and anyway, this is good. You who hear in my sonnet's tidy span the sounds and sighs in which I soaked my heart when I was but a juvenile in part and had not yet in truth become a man. For those times when I just went on and on and on, hauling behind me like a lumbering cart, love's pains and sorrows dutifully to the mart, I humbly ask your pity and your pardon. Of late it surely has come home to me what I had dared not look at until now, finding myself held in such low esteem by the populace. All is vanity, and what has lately been my shame to know, life's dancing pleasures but a passing dream. Now this is number 2. Like a lounging archer, waiting her time and place, love poised his arrow for to strike again, biding his time until the moment when he might pull off at last the coup de grace. My strength was elsewhere. I turned away my face, preoccupied with other things, and then, before I knew it, or could rouse my men, he broke through my defense to my disgrace. By that assault, thrown into disarray, it had no chance to return fire for fire, and so defend me with strong force of arms, or even help me to get up out of the way, up the hill somewhere, till I was well in the clear and could escape heeding those first alarms. All right. One day when cloud had covered up the rays of the sun, as if to mourn the crucified, I was caught, my lady, before I realized, by the sudden beauty of your lustrous eyes. Like someone who at first feels no surprise at a mortal wound, most heartily I hide myself from there, serene and satisfied, though later I was troubled by love's sighs. Love, in finding me totally unprepared, shot through my eyes directly to my heart, the entryway and exit of my tears, so that I had to think 'twas hardly fair that I, unarmed, should shiver at love's dart, while you go free, who are fully armed with spears. All right. read a couple of more and then I'll be done.
Okay.
With what high art and noble providence did he who first laid out the earth and sky, stretching from infinity to infinity, grant to Jupiter and Mars their difference, and coming to earth, finally make some sense of what had puzzled old philosophy, raise John and Peter to a place on high, making them part of the celestial dance. Choosing not to be born in imperial Rome, but in Judea, to exalt what is low and raise it on high is his usual procedure. And here in a small town, by sunlight warm and nurtured in secret, lightly to grow, a woman who is both lovely in form and feature. All right, let me finish then with something simple. This is a poem I wrote. It's called Unseeing a Bust of Dante. Although my nose is yet not quite that long, nor do I have that large, impassioned gaze, I like to think, although I might be wrong, I'm not unlike you in so many ways. First, from the fact of you having been lost within the murky shadows of a wood, then being liberated at what cost, to go through hell with trembling fortitude, then slowly climb the mount of purgatory, a condition that I've known once or twice, though as of now I've yet to get to see the bright interior realms of paradise. I yet have hope of doing that one day, aided by some bright spirit along the way.
Thank you, that was so very good. That was double applause. You heard me, that was double applause. It was. But I have to tell you something about upcoming features, because that's my rule, that's what I have to do, especially because I'm doing all this video recording. If there is anybody that is not on the Cafe Gallery mailing list, come and let me know. Go to the website and say, hey, yeah, add me to the list. Send an email. It would go to the cafe at scars, SCARS.tv, and you could get on the list, and you could find out. After every single open mic like this on a Friday, you would get an email that says, hey, by the way, there's a podcast that's up. And if, well, I don't have one of those smartphones, you can say, all right, fine, it's up on a YouTube link as well, so you can see it. And the probably Monday before, after you feature, we would have a listing that would mail out, hey, by the way, the next person that's going to be up, like the next one would be on July 17th, that'll be our handy-dandy, ultra-sexy, ultra-lovely sidekick, Bob Raschko. He's up on July 17th, yeah, you remember Monster. Yeah! And if anybody loves Buddha 309, David Harker, yeah, if anybody loves him, he's up on the bonus week in the next week on July 24th, not July 4th, July 24th, because he's joining me for the second part of Mysticism versus Science, where I'll have to come up with new periodic table poems to go along with them. After that, we've got Lucia Blinn, which, by the way, if you guys don't know her, you should check her out. She's a really phenomenal writer and reader, so that's in the end of July. Oh my gosh, I can go on. August 14th, Said Yiddish. August 28th, Bob Lawrence. And this one's a cool one. Well, it's not cool, but it's cool because it's September 11th and it's Dallas Malice that happens to be up. I'm like, how did I ever bill on that date? So, you know, I can keep going on. September 25th, we've got poetry. He deserves that name. He was here recently. He's really, really good. If you want to know anything about the schedule, you can always go to the 2013 schedule link at chaoticarts.org/thecafe. And I can't speak anymore because I don't have enough oxygen for all I'm trying to tell you guys. So, thank you so very much. I'm not going to see you for a few weeks before, it's been like 3 weeks until we're back here, but come here on July 17th for Bob Rashdown.